What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the altar again. This is our first interview in 2023 and starting things off on a great note. We are here with Daniel of Twilight Force. Thank you for being here. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Alex. It's my pleasure.
Of course, man. It's the pleasure's all mine. It is so awesome to have you here. At the Heart of Wintervale is the newest Twilight Force album, the fourth offering that we are getting. Is this just picking up where you left off after Dawn of the Dragon Star, or was this intended to be sort of like a new beginning for Twilight Force in a way?
I would say that it's probably picking up more or less because we with Dawn of the Dragon Star we had a it was the first album that we did with Alion on vocals, obviously. So that was a new and exciting challenge to make that fit into our sound and all that. But now we knew how to work together. We knew the possibilities, limitations, etc. Well, there are not that many limitations, but uh, how to work together. So we could write the album with his voice in mind, for example, and we had, I feel, um, in lack of better words, it's a little boring to say mature, but it was a stable foundation and a little more mature approach to how to how to build on what we did with Dawn and Dragonstar. So I feel it's a natural progression from what we did with that. I feel like.
You mentioned like a natural progression, but is there ever a time where you enter the songwriting process with a preconceived vision in a way, or is the songwriting process a very experimental and improvisational uh, process?
That's a good question. I think it's most of the time it's kind of it kind of just emerges in waves of creativity, and you sit there, you doodle with sounds, you hum an idea, you get inspiration, um, your day to day, and or you might hear something that inspires you. You listen to some soundtrack or um, some classical music and something that inspires you. And sometimes we're more deliberate, like we're setting out. Me and Lind will sit down and we'll think, okay, now we want to write a just a classic power metal track, or we want to write a song that reminds you of riding on the back of a dragon, or something, just to get a starting point. So it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Sometimes it's experimental. Sometimes we have a clear idea, and it's interesting. It just songs turn out slightly differently depending on what approach you take. So
Is it fair to say then that with this new album, the singles that we have so far, Sunlight Night and Twilight Force, these aren't just representative of the entire album. That's just the first taste, right? There's a lot more to be discovered.
absolutely, yes, that's very fair to say, because we. It is a very varied album, I would say, maybe more so than our previous ones, because the songwriting, first of all, it took place over so long time. We started writing this album back in 2019, even like when as Dawn of the Dragon Star was released. So it's been a long process, and the songs have been um, manifesting themselves in very different ways, and our songwriting sessions have been different. Sometimes me and Lind, we write together. Sometimes we write separately, and we merge things, and so it's a little different. So it's we have the two singles that are out already are more on the what do you call it? Punch to the face, classic power metal tracks. While there is also way more orchestrated stuff, naturally, since that's what we love doing also. So yeah, there is a sort of a roller coaster, I would say, of sounds on this album.
Is there a particular reason why we have a track on this album called Twilight Force, your name of the band being a song on here? The only band I can think of off the top of my head that has a song bit from that's the same as their band title, I think would be Children of Bodom. I could be wrong in that regard too, but is there a specific reason why you decided to, is this album almost kind of like saying we are Twilight Force, this is who we are?
Yeah, I would say that kind of nail on the head there, because we figured we wanted to this time around have a title track. We figured we haven't done that, and it just sort of feels natural because you can also write a song about what what Twilight Force is, and we figured how about we put that into writing, and we write a song about it. And now that we have all the lore and stuff is presented, and Alion is part of the band and part of the Twilight Force journey, we can it's all come together and we can write a song about it. What was interesting is when we started writing it, even before. So I mean, your first notion, or your intuition would tell you that, oh, a song called Twilight Force, that has to be a 15 minutes long, orchestral journey of just soundtrack-esque vibes and stuff. That was our first thought, that, okay, that should be what a Twilight Force song is. But then we thought, or is it? How about we do it the opposite way? We go back to our roots and we figure out what started Twilight Force off, and that is more of the classic late 90s power metal sound, and make a little, callback, a little tribute to that, to our origins. So that's why we figured, let's just make Twilight Force a banger, that like the kids say.
Well, is it fair to say that maybe because of that, there's a lot of maybe looking back to an album such as Tales of Ancient Prophecies and almost like kind of digging some stuff out, maybe putting yourself back into the sort of mindset that you were in 2014 when we first heard, like when a lot of people first heard Twilight Force?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we put ourselves back there, and like what's made those songs the way they were. I mean, we have evolved, and I wouldn't say moved on, but we have a different approach now. But we put ourselves back. We even like dug out some old keyboard sounds that we actually used on Tales of Ancient Prophecies to get that old in our world old school vibes that reminiscent of Tales of Ancient Prophecies. So for us, that was an interesting journey back in time a little bit to try to make to make that song. But I think it breathes of both old and new. But I think we've seen comments saying that this reminds me of old Twilight Force, and that was the purpose of it. So,
Well, I feel like every Twilight Force album from Tales of Ancient Prophecies to now is a trip through space and time, because I feel like you tackle many subject matters from fantasy to history to spirituality and all these different elements. Has there ever been a time where, because Twilight Force's music is so fantasy driven, that maybe a concept or a story or sort of like a lyrical idea influences your hand with regards to the music itself in a way? Or does music need to be present before there's ever a story behind a Twilight Force song?
It's a little different sometimes. I would say most of the time the music comes first, and then you write a story surrounding it, because you get a mindset, and you put yourself in a mood and an emotion, and that sort of needs to be visualized by words, and contextualized with lyrics. So in that regard, most of the time we write the story following the music. But it's a little bit of a back and forth. Sometimes you have an idea, like, I want to write a song about this topic or this story. And since all of our songs take place within the universe of the Twilight Kingdoms, they're pretty. I feel like this album, they are more connected to the world than they ever have been before. We put a lot of effort into trying to write the lyrics so that they're kind of clear. They're written in a more obvious manner that you can start. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you can follow the tale, and you can follow the storyline a little more clearly, I think, than some of the songs in the past. Like it's easy, when you write power metal and fantasy-based power metal, you just want to. Some people just throw fantasy tropes at the wall. You have light, might, night, and fight, and that's, call it a day. We try to not make it that easy for us, and we try to actually tell a story that you can follow. And it's also easy that everything just becomes metaphors with big words and whatnot. But it would be nice, we figured, that if you can actually like follow the stories and what's happening, and connect the words to the music in a more maybe a little more deeper way. So everything is I'm very happy with how the lyrics turned out in this album, and I hope people will actually take some time. I know it's easy; people just stream stuff online now and not really, back in the old days when you were flipping through a booklet. I hope that at least some people will do that still and get a kick out of it.
Well, your albums are very similar to that of like Lord of the Rings. I feel like your albums need to be listened to chronologically. Like no, with a lot of bands, and I do this with plenty of bands where like when they're releasing a new album, I have to go back and binge listen to the previous ones first. So you got to start off with Tales of Ancient Prophecies again. You got to start off with Heroes of the Mighty Magic, and then Dawn of the Dragon Star, and then you move on to At the Heart of Wintervale for me. That's how I almost look at it. But is there ever a time where, we're all artists and we're all products of our environment? Has there ever been a time where your personal lives or your personal experiences help dictate the sound or even the lyricism of a Twilight Forest song in a way? Or do you always prefer to have music to kind of distance yourselves from your average everyday lives?
That's a good question. I would say for me personally, it is a distancing. I would say it is an escapism and a way to step into a different mindset, a different world for a second, and you dig yourself into a hole and shut the light out, and you spend all night just being someplace else, and that's how the Twilight Force music emerges. I would say. So the everyday, considering the topics and the fantasy elements, and both musically and lyrically and lore-wise also. I mean, for me, it's an important whole concept, and it all needs to be connected. And there is no connection to the real world in what Twilight Force represents for me. Like it is a like stepping into Lord of the Rings or something, like you mentioned. It's so that's important to me, and I feel like it's. I hope people also appreciate that escapism and that the world building around it, and that we can all like when everyone when you're playing role playing games or video games or something, you want to step into a different world, and that's sort of what I wish people can do with Twilight Force also.
Definitely. Do you almost feel like maybe in Twilight Force that you and all of your bandmates, maybe in a way, like this is just for lack of better terms, but like portray a character or maybe portray an entity that is very different from who Daniel Beckman is, you know?
Well, I mean, yes, it's the characters that we have. I mean, the Blackwald character has his place in the Twilight Kingdoms, and I don't know. Maybe there is some subconscious connection to the characters that we represent. Also, I think there is we have interwoven some character traits obviously into the characters also, that you can probably see from live performances, and the little who is secretive and who is mirthful, and etc. So that sort of like represents a little bit on how we maybe are as actual humans also. So so that there is a little bit of a connection there, but otherwise you step into a role, and you are someone else for a second. It's a theatrical call it like a yeah, I guess escapism is the best word. Escapism.
Being a keyboardist, and like there's so much classical elements behind your sound, And I feel like, you really are like a symphony orchestra as much as you are a metal band in a way. Like I could picture seeing you guys at a Hellfest or a Wacken, but I could also see you guys at like Carnegie Hall or Radio City, or the Apollo Theater in a way because of this symphonic elements. Is there a theoretical element that you apply into your instrumentation as well, or are you all completely on the self-taught side?
There is a lot of theory that goes into it, for sure, because it's very hard. You can absolutely be self-taught and orchestrate well. There's no doubt about that. I'm sure many orchestrators and composers do. For us, I'm more on the self-taught spectrum, but I'm a classical violinist originally, so I have that theoretical part of obviously playing in orchestras for decades. And but then Lynn, for example, has the more theoretical aspect of the writing. So it's a good combination, I feel like, of just being theoretical or just winging it. But it all comes obviously from a lot of experience and a lot of experimenting and a lot of unwritten rules, so to speak, on how to write and orchestrate, and especially for a symphonic orchestra. I mean, there are other ways. You can also very easily analyze what other very good orchestrators, like John Williams, for example, what he does in his music. It's very and he in turn has obviously also taken a lot of influences from older composers like Gustav Holst and stuff. So there's everything is a remix, but you have to look to you have to find your own personal mentors and see what you can take inspiration from and derive knowledge from that. So there is I would say it's a little 50-50. There is obviously a lot of theoretical aspects in the back of our minds all the time, but for me personally, I don't really apply so much. I mostly go on what I feel I hear in my head, like this is what I want to create, and then you bring out tools from your toolbox that you have with tools that you have accumulated over many years. So
To get that feeling, do you almost need to like put yourself, like I see right now you're in like your studio, and I love looking at the compressor like right behind you and seeing how my voice is raising the meter right there. I couldn't stop looking at that the whole time. But in order to cultivate those ideas, do you need to like put yourself in a studio or put yourself in a specific frame of mind in order to get that feeling in those ideas, or do ideas just strike out of the blue for you?
um I would say a lot of ideas comes from just fiddling around with sounds, and depending on what kind of now we're going into like composing territory here, but depending on what sounds you're using, you will write different types of songs and music, obviously to many people. But uh, for Twilight Force, a lot of the stuff comes from just starting out on a piano sound, for example. And I have to say, if I'm playing on a real piano or a grand piano, upright or grand, the writing comes way easier. So a lot of the times I would just play on a real piano. It's a little different. You can play sampled pianos all you want, and they sound great and all, but there is a setup time, and there is it takes a little while to get into. You got to put on headphones, or it's not the same. The immersion is a little different. So I prefer if you're playing a real piano, acoustic piano, and ideas come way more natural to me, at least. And I will just put on, I'll have the, the recorder on on a little cell phone or something, just to save ideas. And that you eventually have tens of little 50 little ideas sitting there, and you pick and choose from them, and that was a good nugget of a song, and you start building from there. So a lot of stuff comes from just playing around on the piano with themes, or even humming. Like, to me, I'll find the leitmotifs and main melodies and stuff comes fairly easy to me by humming, like just humming in my head. So it's a little different. Everyone has their own process, but it's fascinating how it just happens. It's hard to pinpoint a specific source of inspiration and how things happen, but they do eventually.
Of course.
Sometimes with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but you know.
Well, this is metal. I mean, there needs to
Yeah.
be blood, sweat, and tears. I got two more questions for you. But when it comes to the music that you all create together, it's a band. It's a very collaborative process. Is it really better if everybody is feeling the same way about a certain song and everybody is in the same headspace and is on the same page with songwriting, or could all of you maybe being off in your own worlds and feeling differently about certain things maybe actually help enhance what makes a Twilight Force song a Twilight Force song?
I mean, everyone contributes in a very in their own way. I mean, it's always been Twilight Force has always been me and Lind writing all the songs. Uh, no, there's no two ways about that. But once everything comes together and everyone puts their part into it, things happen, and oftentimes in a very good way. So, for example, on this album, this was the first album that Diash Mark II was drumming on, since we changed our drummer a few years back. But that was we never did any tours. We only had a couple of shows in Japan with him, and now on this album we actually got a chance to put his inspiration and his influences onto and his playing onto this album, and it really tells. Like it shows if you compare Dawn of Dragon Stars to this. There are some people would say that, oh, it's just a drummer, it doesn't matter, but it does matter. There is the tiny little nuggets of interesting things that happen that changes stuff. So everyone has their own personality in their playing and stuff, and so things happen, and you have to then adapt. So sometimes, oh, we got to do this little drum thing here, then we got to change something else in the arrangement. So it's a big back and forth. But the songs are always kind of cemented in a way. There's only you will change out details and stuff, but once everyone puts their stuff on there and Alion comes to sing and whatever, the songs are already, everything is done, and the melodies are done and all that. We're not obviously, since Alion lives in a faraway land. It's we can't like meet up 5 times a week and rehearse and write song in a rehearsal room. It's just not how it's also not possible, I think, to write 12 4 songs that way. It needs to be really churned out, beat by beat in a very meticulous manner over very long periods of time.
Yeah, you need a member like in North Korea. Just make it like 10 times more distant, but in a way.
Yeah, I don't know. We're getting more and more spread out here. But it works fine in this day and age with the magic of cyberspace.
Right.
It's pretty easy to.
You might have just come up with
it.
the next album title right there, "The Magic of Cyberspace."
Like, let's keep it to traditional magic. I think.
Fair enough. Well, human creation is magic, and we created our
true.
own cyber world. So
that's true. That's true. It's a matter of definition.
magic of cyber. Just keep that in your back pocket somewhere.
There you go.
Yeah. But before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for such an awesome conversation to start off the year with. Again, this is the perfect first interview of 2023. Is there just anything else with Twilight Force that you would like to promote with the release of this new album? Is there a chance we could finally see Twilight Force in the U.S.?
I really hope so. It's all written in the book of time. We will see what the future has in store, what the prophecies have foretold. But I really hope that we can make it over there. We have a bunch of shows planned for the rest of this year already, and I would. I don't know of any concrete plans, but I know that, I mean, we're always talking about it. It's a big endeavor to get across the pond to do shows, but hopefully, last time we played was except for 70K, I think it was Prague Power. That was quite a few years ago, so I feel like it is time for the return.
Yeah,
But yeah,
every,
let's
oh, yeah.
keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah. Every European band that's never done a full tour in the USA, but it's only played. They were like, yeah, we've only played in the US once. And I'm like, let me guess, it was either 70K or Prague Power, one of those
Yeah,
two.
exactly.
So,
No, it's a. I think the practical stuff of playing in the U.S. is kind of. First of all, it's very expensive because you need work visas and all that, so that kind of makes it difficult. But and in that way, that's how 70K, because it's international waters, and Prague Power because they help you out with that. So that's why it's possible. You guys gotta get a little more metal festivals on the ground.
I know we have plenty of them, but Hellfest is very different from an Aftershock festival or
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
like it's
No, but let's fingers crossed we'll get over there. We really would love to. Obviously, as soon as the opportunity presents itself, we will be there. Faster than a dragon can fly. So
absolutely. But that's another great title, Faster Than a Dragon Can Fly. But I should go before I become another member of Twilight Force. But
you'll be our title muse.
hey, I would be honored. But thank you so much, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it.
Anytime, man. Everybody, we are here with Twilight Force at the Heart of Wintervale. Be sure to pick that up January 20th of 2023. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.